or two ties, that can be the difference between locking in top 8 or not, especially with the road to Worlds, players trying to get that invite. They need to get these high finishes to get as many championship points as possible. And we've got the roll of the die to tails. And we've got our players just about to begin. Hopefully we got another sweet matchup here.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to have Alex Schemanske facing off against the Mew VMAX. This is going to be an interesting matchup here as we see the Arceus Duraludon, which has avoided us the entire tournament.
Yes, the Mew's going to be so strong, but the Arceus V-Star is also very, very good, right? This is a list that we talked about in the Analyst Lounge, is a powerful deck that has so much adaptability. It was the poster child for energy acceleration back in the day. And of course, when we talk about the metagame for EUIC, it is based around consistency, and that's what Arceus V-Star delivers for you.
No, we will see Alex actually starting things off here with the Drapion V in this matchup. That is something that is very spicy to start off with, as it really puts your opponent on the back foot. How many of these Pokemon can you start to play down on the board before you just walk into an easy knockout?
Having the Drapion V here against the Mew is fantastic. Nofoume is just going to cut the deck, starts with the Mew V in the active, and with the Arceus V, we still have to find that energy attached for turn. Is that what you're trying to go for here? Or are you just going to immediately just bank on the Drapion? Has two of them.
Whoa, hey, you can't be doing that. Double Drapion V.
You know what decks are strong. You know what you want to beat, and you're just going to double down on that counter. Honestly, I got to respect that level of haterade.
That is an absolute flex, as Nofoume has got a lot to think about here as we start things off here with the Nest Balls. Well, I want to play Pokemon, but if I do, I lose.
And the Drapion V normally comes out as a surprise tactic, but now they're just all out in the open. Alex is set up. I have my two main attackers right here. Please feed me some Mew VMAXs. I want to make this short and sweet. And if you're in the Mew player's shoes, how do you get around the Drapion?
Yeah, we're going to have to see potentially the stadium choice being relevant, but I'm not seeing the Lost City as a potential option, as that's usually a way to just lock out the Drapion V and not have to worry about it coming back. But you're staring down two of them. It's an inevitability at this point.
Yeah, Alex Schemanske has anticipated that counter in the Lost City to say, well, I'm just going to have a backup plan. I have a second one, the Drapion brothers, just waiting for their victims to show up. And Nofoume has no choice but to just do the Mew VMAX things and extend. We've got the Genesect Vs being found and the Dreepy technology with that infestation. Draws up now to 6 cards with the Fusion Strike system.
Yep, going to see if there's some potential to put on enough of a threat here and maybe start to knock out these Pokemon before they knock you out. But definitely enough Fusion Strike Pokemon there to warrant some wild style.
This is honestly a stellar start, even Tails on the Crabomatic. You've got the Genesect Vs, you've got 2 Mew Vs, the Choice Belt, Forest Seal Stone all ready to go. I wonder if Nofoume is actually going to use that Forest Seal Stone right away. We know that these Drapion decks also have a lot of gusting effects. They want to try to get that early lead and end the game, so that Forest Seal Stone, if you sit on it too long, could have that go to the discard pile.
Yeah, I think Nofoume was looking to find maybe a potential way to slow down Wild Style. If you can lock out that ability, then maybe you feel comfortable, but you don't want to use Forest Seal Stone to go find that stadium, as it's just not going to be helpful for you.
Yeah, just going to go for a retreat. Sends up a single prize Pokemon, so that's going to be useful just to try to buy a little bit of time. We've talked over and over again about the threat of the Drapion V, but there's still a lot more at work for this deck. We see the Ultra Ball discarding the Duraludon VMAX. Alex Schemanske got a lot of ideas here and finds the Arceus V-Star. Going to have access to that Starbirth here pretty soon. And this is another, big, important power, just like Forest Seal Stone, something that you want to save for maybe later on. But in the Arceus V-Star Duraludon builds, sometimes they are forced to use it quite early just to complete the setup.
Yeah, this is a pretty solid spot here, as we see that regardless, you're going to be able to take this opening knockout and start to load up some energies. But if you can find a way to also charge up these Pokemon here, you could just disregard the fact that Wild Style is a great ability. You could put energies on this Pokemon and use Dynamic Tail potentially.
We did see that earlier in the broadcast where we just had a Drapion have manually energies attached to it, a lot of basic energy with Mirage Gate, I believe it was, and just went for the normal tail, just standard style.
Yep, super standard style.
And after the Starbirth, the cards are being found here to put this plan together, Kyle. Boss's orders being eyed up, another Lost City. How the turns have tabled. Alex has the counters for his own. He's going to start sending Genesects to the Lost Zone, doesn't care. Wants to make sure, I think, just having those stadiums to bump Path to the Peak, things of that nature. But Arceus V-Star going to come up to the active now, get that Trinity charge.
Yeah, this is what we're talking about here. Disregard what's going on with the stadiums. As long as Alex always has the counter stadium to that other stadium that we could potentially see, then we're going to be all right there. Obviously, looking at that Path to the Peak, and the energy's coming down for the Drapion V. I like this split as it opens up for potential double turbo to be an easy way for this Drapion V to take a knockout, even through Path.
So smart. Coming up with the Arceus V-Star as well, puts your least important attacker, we'll say, the Pokemon that you want to kind of have knocked out of all three of these, into the active to just take that quick single prize. And the Dreepy isn't a standard tech for the Mew VMAX, so having that single prize Pokemon does open up a lot of breathing room for Nofoume to get a setup here, switch cart just to bring the Mew VMAX into the active, the Mew V rather. Not going for the attack just yet, and now an Ultra Ball.
Yeah, if this could be a turn where you potentially see a knockout on a Drapion V, then potentially there is a world where Nofoume is able to get out of this mess. But with Arceus taking the initial knockout, now there's a big issue where almost every turn you're going to be ending with Mew VMAX in the active spot, and Drapion V loves that.
And fortunately, Nofoume is not under that extra pressure, right, to find the Lost City and jump through some hoops. Typically, we've seen sometimes Mew VMAX players will not take the knockout, or rather don't like to take that knockout when they're forced to, if they don't have the Lost City to really lock down that Drapion. But when you see your opponent has two, you're just going to take that knockout to try to get one target out of the way as quickly as possible. First Genesect V is activated with the Fusion Strike system, picks up a Power Tablet. Nofoume just emptying the hand down and already gearing up for a bigger KO here. Suing Heavy Ball. Now the next play to look in the prizes, see if there's any basics there. I don't think I got eyes on the prizes yet, Kyle, but I don't think there's anything notable in there.
Yeah, not the best news seeing the Power Tablet that's in there. A good selection of supporters. These are all cards that you're honestly pretty happy to see when you start drawing prize cards. So gonna get that information. Also just gets a thin a card out of the hand here to potentially draw a little bit better with the next Fusion Strike system.
We've got Nest Ball, Feather Ball. You can't use Nest Ball when your bench is full. That is a thing we do have to note here, but Feather Ball does just search through, fail that to thin it out of the hand once more. We still got two more Fusion Strike systems to go. Nofoume has two Mew VMAX on the bench, and that is 6 prizes for Alex Schemanske to take if he needs to.
Well, considering playing down a little more from the hand here, use the Lost Vacuum, and can now start to draw 5 cards with the Fusion Strike system. And this leads to potential for Power Tablet to maybe creep its way into the hand, and we do see at least one more. And looks like we also see the Forest Sealstone combo.
Oh yeah, twinsies over here on the end. Second Power Tablet as well. There's 2 of everything now, Kyle. And another Fusion Strike system of Boss's orders. Great preparation for the next turn. Now Mew VMAX is going to come into the active. Has the Choice Belt, the Double Turbo Energy, 2 Power Tablets, Path to the Peak to lock things down nicely.
Yep, Alex just signifying Lost City is in the Lost Zone. It's not being countered as a stadium. And we are going to see that big knockout there on the Arceus V-Star, and now the Lost City counters right back, so Wild Style is back.
Wildstyle now online. Alex Schemanske is going to take 3 prizes in response to Nofoume, only being able to take 2 and jump back into the lead as soon as the rest of the sequencing from this turn is done. Thankfully, Alex did just immediately use that star birth to get use out of it before that Arceus went down. Knew that this matchup was going to be very aggressive, very dynamic. You want to use your resources as quickly as you can, as soon as they become available. Duraludon V now being benched, and a double turbo energy for the next Drapion. This is anticipation of another Path to the Peak entering play. We want to make sure we have enough energy attached to the Drapion, and so that next dynamic tail is all ready to go.
Yeah, this is Alex just saying, if you were going to use an escape rope, then I need to have another Pokemon down so that I don't just give you this Drapion V with all the energies. And if you're going to use boss's orders to take this Pokemon, well, that means that you haven't disrupted my hand, and I'm probably going to be able to find another way to make use of this active Drapion.
So this match is an absolute slugfest. Alex Schemanske already down to only 2 prizes remaining. Nofoume has 2 massive threats to deal with in the Drapion Vs, and if you take down one, the other one is just going to come back up. It all comes down to Nofoume taking down this one that has the energy attached, also comboing this with Path to the Peak to try to stop the other Drapion from taking that return knockout to buy one more turn. We do see Path to the Peak in the hand, and Pal Pad now going to find 2 supporters from the discard pile to put back into the deck. Just picks up that boss's order, is going to shuffle it in nicely.
Yep, nothing else really left to do here other than try to guarantee the knockout. You still have the 4 Seal Stone if you need to work in any additional cards to the mix. But with the Path to the Peak, you've pretty much done everything you're asked to do this turn, and you just hope to avoid the counter stadium on the other side.
We'll see if it comes to fruition. Whenever your back's against a wall like this and you have to rely on your opponent not having certain cards, that's where things certainly get dicey, Kyle.
Well, we're not going to need to do any Pidgeot Dreepy stuff right now. We're going to avoid that and just go ahead and draw some additional cards here. Get all these Genesect V into play. Maybe you can draw into some resources that help you close out this game, as we are coming to a quick close here in this opening game of the series.
Yep, 38 minutes still left on the clock. Nofoume actually still looking pretty cool. Despite being in this situation, understands what he needs to do to win this matchup. You know, I think every Mew VMAX at this point understands how to navigate Drapion in this metagame. Even in this new format, it's still the same deck being weak to the same counter. We've got another Choice Belt. Second Mew VMAX is styled out now, ready to go. Path to the Peak. The strategy has finally come online with the knockout. 2 more prizes for Nofoume, 2 prizes remaining for both players. And now Alex Schemanske needs to find some way to deal with Path to the Peak or get some attachments to the Drapion. Double turbo attach return and Professor's Research.
Says, I don't need any of these. They're not labeled as a stadium, and there it is.
And finds the bump. Lost City gets rid of Path to the Peak, and that's going to be the knockout. Quick game 1 going over to Alex Schemanske.
That was wild style.
The
Love seeing that
Drapion
there.
doubled down on the counter, and it came through. How many layers do you think you have to get through to get to a counter like that? To say, you know what's going to be really strong in the next format? VMAX. I'm going to counter that again.
Yeah, that is onion deep. That is crazy. We have gone layer after layer. Eventually, you think about this deck and all of the different Pokemon that you don't want to start with as Arceus Duraludon. So often you were desperate to start that Arceus. Instead now it says, not only 1 Drapion V, let's go 2. Let's also throw in a 1-1 Alolan Vulpix line in the mix. There is so much going on in this deck that we didn't even get to explore yet because it's so relevant to the matchup. All we need to see is the Drapion Vs, and we found 2.
That level of just teching is something you see much later in a much more matured format. And just to burst onto the scene with what your hot takes and predictions are about what people are going to bring to EUIC and try to head them off at the pass, I think just demonstrates the prowess and the confidence that Alex Schemanske has on his ability to read these metagames. And Nofoume, right, 10, 1, and 2, still doing very well with the Mew VMAX, has a little bit of silly tech in there with the Dreepy and the Pidgeot V. And that's another thing that we know Double Turbo Mew VMAX can squeeze in. You know, lately it was just Aerodactyl.
You had opportunity there with the Aerodactyl, the 1-1 line, and it was able to help you in a Lugia matchup. And now you have potential to play the Pidgeot Dreepy, and it does the same exact thing in Lugia. It can basically auto-win if your opponent ever starts or discards the wrong thing at the wrong time. You can just bring that back with Echoing Horn and really start to cause a lot of issues.
And so we have a mulligan here for Alex, giving Mew extra cards. That seems to be their entire theme, just keep drawing more cards. And there is always a chance this game number 2 could go off the rails, Kyle, right? Double Drapion V-Start was kind of a giga high roll. So if we get those in the prizes, maybe a Lowland V starts in the active, things might get clunky.
Oh, don't do that to Alex. He doesn't want to see those.
I just want to see a real match.
Fair enough.
I love these sleeves too, by the way.
Yeah, these are some beautiful colors that we see here. As well, you're not going to get your wish, and we don't even get to see Duraludon. Oh, no.
Listen, Alex, he's too good. He's stronger than my Caster Curse, and I think that's saying something.
Even starting the Arceus V after my Caster Curse, saying that's the only Pokemon you really want in the active spot in most matchups. But here it is, and it has the potential to maybe even get the turn 1 Trinity Charge. But we're going to start off here with Nofoume in that Nest Ball, hoping to build a nice big bench.
UV is grabbed off the Nest Ball. We saw 2 Ultra Ball in the hand. Nofoume taking a second just to map out this turn. A lot of Pokemon are going to be grabbed besides Ultra Ball being discarded to Cram-O-Matic. It's a Tails.
Yep, that's not what you want to see here. A lot of cards that discard cards in the hand, so it's going to be naturally thinned out, and there's not really enough Pokemon to get you excited just yet. So hopefully we see the Fusion Strike system build up the hand with some basics or way to search out more basic Pokemon.
This is tough, like having so many ball search cards in the hand, trying to sequence how many Mew Vs and Genesects you want. Nofoume also recognizes how aggressive he needs to be in this matchup. You can't just stick, kick back, judge, path. The Drapion is an omnipresent threat, so this changes the implications of the decisions and the sequencing. UV finding the choice belt.
Okay, so yeah, we see Nofoume just a pass right there. Is holding on to the Mew VMAX and 2 Ultra Balls. Is just going to slow down this turns as well. If you did have double turbo Drapion V, you're not going to be able to knock me out. You would have to have the energy attachment to the Drapion in order to knock me out with Wild Style.
Trying to limit the Wild Style, a different approach to the matchup. Going to rely on just a single Mew VMAX just knocking on the door. And this kind of makes sense, right, Kyle? With the Path to the Peak, the Mew decks have gotten used to not drawing tons of cards every turn. You just need to draw enough, and then you put that Path to the Peak just kind of turning off that valve. And taking a more measured approach could be a huge adjustment here in second game.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, as we've seen players just try to make sure they have a way out of their own path to the peak, and continually just finding those lost vacuums. We've seen the increase in the counts there, trying to help out here, and of course Alex is going to do everything on their side of the board to avoid that being an issue. Plays plenty of those Lost City, the double Drapion V start once more, and this
horrifying.
Is terrifying.
When you are Mew VMAX, and you did your best. I'm going to try to limit the Wild Style, but we still got Arceus V in the active spot. We didn't get the attach for turn just yet. Just going to discard that energy.
Want it. Yeah, so if I'll either find the double colorless or switch energy. Either one would be great, but I think there's going to be a miss there. A little short.
Yep, just finds one attach for turn and has to pass back. This is the massive window of opportunity that Nofoume needs in this matchup. Just evolves into Mew VMAX, and we've got the Ultra Ball, discarding another Ultra Ball and the other Mew VMAX. Finds a Mew V, might not even bench it, but no, does put it down. So Wild Style would be active, but as long as Nofoume gets kind of the opening swing here, it'd be great. A couple Fusion Strike systems, maybe boss up that Drapion, get rid of one of those threats right away would be massive.
Yeah, I'm a little perplexed by this. I feel like the Genesect V makes a little more sense. This is a moment where you've decided that you no longer respect Wild Style, which means that you have to start drawing as many cards as possible. So if you're able to find access to a Path to the Peak and eventually some more Pokemon, then you're going to feel very good. But going to be reliant on Cram-O-Matic and one more Genesect. Missing there, now only gets to see 2 cards.
Lost Vacuum and another Mew V. The well has run dry, trying to maybe go just a little bit of a hedge, by having 2 Mew-V, having another attacker that can maybe be set up, but we've got Genesect V stranded in the active. We've got Wild Style turned back on.
Yeah, I mean, you see the problem now is you draw into the Mew-V and you don't have access to additional Fusion Strike systems. You just have to pass the turn, no pat to the peak for Rapid Strike or Fusion Strike Pokemon in play, and that just walks right into a world of pain.
Ultra Ball discards Duraludon and Judge. Alex Schemanske thinning the deck a little bit more, seeing what is available, finds Arceus V-Star. So now we're going to have Trinity Nova soon. We've got access to Starbirth to guarantee the rest of those plays. This Genesect V is going to go down, and when we head back over to Nofoume's turn, there's going to be even less card draw available to get out of this terrible situation.
Yep, we do see the choice belt there. So this means as soon as potentially that double turbo is drawn or Starbirth guarantees it, there it is right in the hand. We're going to see the knockout there on the Genesect, not having to use either of those Drapion V, and even gets to hold on to a Lost City for a little extra protection.
Double turbo attached and Nest Ball to thin down even more. Alex Schemanske, you can see the pace of play even increasing. When a player is closing in on a fantastic board state, a fantastic advantage, I love when you can just see that pace increase. Genesect V goes down. Alex Schemanske going to attach those energies just like we saw in game number 1, preparing for further double turbo energies, and takes 2 prizes. Nofoume did have the Mew VMAX prepared in the hand, has a choice belt, but has to find a double turbo energy. So this is going to be drawing 3 cards.
Yep, gonna start to add on, and sneaky with the Dreepy coming down there. Maybe there is an opportunity to lock in a Pokemon like that Radiant Gardevoir on the other side at some point in time.
Power Tablet gonna thin the hand down, trying to get this big KO up and running. Just a Pal Pad. You can see the resources here really dwindling, and Mew VMAX, if they can't draw cards, they don't really have the ability to search out the things they need unless they take a big gamble on a Cramomatic or already have that Forest Seal Stone.
Just trying to thin the hand down a little more. This is just a big problem now that the Genesect V is already used. That was the only Fusion Strike system. I think, I mean, actually, you're just using that to avoid potential knockouts with the choice belt there.
Yep, just has to retreat into the Dreepy to buy 1 turn by putting up a single prize Pokemon. This is where things are looking very grim. It's so unfortunate because Alex Schemanske still has Starbirth.
He has not used Starbirth, you're correct. And we're going to see Colress Experiment adding to the hand now. There are 2 Lost City in the hand. There's also some double turbos being found. We could easily see both Drapion V charged up with 4 energies each and a knockout here. That is not how Pokemon is played, but I love it.
This is something I have never seen before, Kyle. Just already running the Arceus V-Star allows you to make these Drapion even more uncounterable because you can manually attach these energies with the Trinity Nova. You don't have to reduce the cost of the attack, and it means that it takes so many options away from the opponent to counter. Nofoume is going to answer back with a Roxanne.
Yeah, that was calculated there with promoting the Dreepy, get your opponent down to 3 prize cards, and then Roxanne is activated. There was not much going on in the hand there. You need to just give up as little as possible to try to find a window. But we're gonna need a door, we're gonna need a crane, we're gonna need a lot of things.
We need a miracle, Kyle. Nofoume fought valiantly in game number 1. It was an absolute slugfest. Had to take a much bigger risk in this game trying to limit the bench around Wildstyle. And after the Genesect V got knocked out, no resources available to fight back. And Alex Schemanske's double Drapion V going to make quick work of the Mew V Max matchup.
And that is going to be it here in round 14. A quick one here for you as we see Alex with the potential to find a win-in opportunity in round number 15 now, as this should move our player to 34 match points and leaving Nofoume a little short at 32 now.
Incredibly well played. We thought that Arceus deck might have the ability to be a little clunky or just brick up, and it didn't happen. We got the Drapion, and every single game, Alex Schemanske was in the driver's seat, had the Star Birth in his back pocket, ready to go to close out these games, and I loved the way he was already thinking to counter the counter and get those Drapion V set up with those energy attachments.
Yeah, I can already hear the words of Alex on in the interview, potentially just like, well, thanks for putting me on stream in that matchup, because that was a lot of fun. I took a lot of prize cards, and I only had to show my face for, what, 15, 20 minutes there?
It was great also, I think, especially considering the matchups that we've seen so far that are much more setup focused and very specific about trying to control the pace of the game. This was one that was incredibly aggressive. Both players were forced to play at a faster pace to take those prize cards, to rather than deal with a threat or head off a threat, to just punch through and end the game to neutralize that threat instead. So definitely an aggressive slant that we haven't really seen very recently.
Yeah, I mean, this is something we talk about all the time, just players that like to build very consistent decks or like to really focus on their game plan. There is a third style of deck, and it is the technology. Occasionally, we show the technology on stream every once in a while because it's interesting, but when it hits the right matchup, it's not exactly what you want to watch. It can be awkward at times. It can be brutal for opponents, and right then and there you saw that. And Nofoume put up an incredible performance trying to find a way through that. Almost did, which is insane to think about when you see what this matchup could look like as we did in Game 2.
The matchup, I think, was not as one-sided as it initially appeared, as you talked about, Kyle. Putting up a threat like that, it's a shame, well, actually, I don't even want to say it's a shame. I think it's maybe a blessing in disguise that we didn't have to sit through a Dreepy, Pidgeot V kind of idea, and that was definitely a much more measured, standard Mew VMAX demonstration. But the adaptation for Game 2, trying to limit around the wild style to adapt to your opponent's counter to your deck, there was so much, not just adaptation there, but just the layers of metagaming, right? Understanding how to navigate the Drapion V, and then Alex Schemanske just countering that. And honestly, if we went to a Game 3, I think we could have seen that interplay between those two players deepen further.
Well, I'm excited to see what Alex's deck looks like against, I don't know, maybe a deck like Gardevoir.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? you probably do the exact same thing that you just tried to do there, and you just charge up the Drapion V with all these energies again, and just continue to put up a bunch of threats, and it's really funny to see this Pokemon that we're used to just have no energies, go in there, do your job, get rid of the Mew V